Welcome to Poland Daily Culture. I'm Jon Carter, and on today's episode we're joined by candidate for Mars One project, Mikołaj Zieliński. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me here.
Just with regard to the one-way mission then, what is it that you think the sort of characteristics or personality traits perhaps of the type of person, I'm including you in this, who would be comfortable with doing a one-way mission? What are those traits?
Okay, so to answer to this question, I can also tell you about previous rounds of the selection, because at each selection round there was focus on one aspect. And initially the most important thing was motivation. So there was about 200,000 people interested in the project. They were sending emails asking how to apply, what to do, let me go, I want to go with you, and so on. And so we had to write our motivation letters. And for example, people who applied for the mission and they said that they are fed up with life on Earth, they of course were selected out, because such person can maybe fed up with life on Mars quite quickly. So like I told you about my motivation, and it seems that this was the right motivation. They were looking for people who really want to stay on Mars and dedicate their life to science and exploration and stay there and do all these things. This is how I understand it now. In next round of the selection, we had medical checks. So another important thing is that you have to be healthy. And the test, we've done all these medical tests that normally are done for NASA astronaut candidates. Then there was another round. We've got some study materials, a lot of things to learn about historical mission to Mars, to have an idea how dangerous is what we are trying to do, because many previous missions to Mars failed, like a spacecraft exploded on the launch pad or didn't miss the planet and things like this. Until today, accidents happen, so we have to be aware of them. So we had to know good knowledge about previous missions. And then everything about life support system, which is already designed, and few other things. Everything about Mars also, to know how harsh environment it is. And based on this, we had interviews, and basically we had to show our capability for rapid learning, because in next 10 years there will be a lot of things to study. In the following round, which this is the round that we are waiting for. I hope it will take place next year, in the beginning of next year. It will be all about teamwork, team spirit, leadership, followership, communication, and they will be looking for the best team players, I understand. And then in the following round, it will be all about isolation, I think. And then 24 candidates will be selected, and we will start the training, which will take 10 years. And during those 10 years, as I mentioned before, there will be a lot of challenges. There will be a lot of study, and also so all these things that I mentioned before about selection criteria, and we will learn about our personalities more, and psychologists who are running the selection will learn more about us. And every year during the during the training, we will have another set of challenges, tests, to find out which teams perform better, which are worse, and maybe even every year or every few years, some teams will be selected out from the training. And maybe will be allowed to apply for the training once again and start from scratch with some other team members, if one person really wants to still continue and try to go to Mars.
Mars One is a highly ambitious project aiming to establish a permanent human settlement on Mars. It might sound like science fiction, but they have scheduled several unmanned missions in the next few years, which will create a habitable settlement before rigorously trained crews depart to Mars. This team is yet to be established. There is currently a 100-person shortlist under evaluation, with that eventually being whittled down to 24 before the candidates undergo some of the toughest psychological training known to humanity. The shortlist includes people from all around the world with a variety of backgrounds, including the only Polish citizen, Mikołaj Zieliński. Mikołaj is a software programmer with a passion for science, discovery and adventure. 5 years ago, he learnt about the Mars One project, and given that the only initial conditions for application were being aged over 18, he immediately applied. However, Mikołaj is not your average wannabe astronaut. His strong desire to discover and help civilization have led him to be prepared to make the ultimate sacrifice and never return to Earth. If you are going to be selected to be a participant, when would you know that? When is it kind of revealed, the final 24?
After the last selection round, which is hopefully next year. We don't know yet. We don't know yet.
Relatively close then. Okay, so with that in mind then, is there anything that you would like to do on Earth prior to potentially leaving?
So I was already asked this question last year by my friend, and I was thinking about it because nothing was coming to my mind. Eventually I came to the conclusion that there is nothing like this. I can go tomorrow.
Wow.
Yeah.
And is that because you've led quite a full life and you've done many of the things you want to do, or is it more because that your mind is so clearly focused on the possibility of going to Mars now?
I think it's because things that we can experience are so exciting that they cannot be compared with anything that you can experience on Earth.
Okay.
So I can try some things, like probably because, if there are some books that I want to read, I will be able still to read them later. If there is some movie that I want to watch, I will be able to read it later. If I want to learn playing some instrument, maybe even this will be possible. But to go to some city and see some seasides, or to do some, like really comparing to the opportunity of searching life on another planet, I cannot find anything more exciting.
Wow, okay, yeah, I can sort of comprehend it, yeah. I mean, it's still abstract for me, but I can see where you're coming from. So what's changed in your life since you sort of came on this path 4 or 5 years ago? Yeah.
Definitely I improved my English because when I met some candidates from the UK, from US, Australia, I realized that there is a lot of improvement still to be done with my English, and especially with academic English. And so this was one of very important things for me, because during the selection, when we have some challenges and everything is on time, no one will, if I don't understand something and I will not do, like if I will be not able to communicate with my teammates, maybe our team will not be able to do some tasks, and it may result in selecting out some of team members or even me. So English is very important. And another thing is trying to become a better team player. Mm-hmm. This is something very, very, and all these things related to being a nice person, just to become a better human, and so it's more about soft skills and about psychology, about changing personality, my personality. I was reading a lot about what makes astronauts, what makes candidates for astronauts. Mm-hmm. And especially in terms of psychology, how NASA builds teams and what makes a team efficient. So I was reading a lot about this, but after some time I realized that reading doesn't help me at all. I can have a lot of knowledge in that field, I can understand how things works, but it doesn't change me. So I had to really put myself into some different situations, maybe challenging situations, and learn about myself, how I react, how I behave in such situation when teamwork, team spirit is very, very important. And that's why I was doing a lot of caving, speleology, because this is something that also European Space Agency astronauts do, and other agencies. They go for expeditions, and expeditions are participating in expeditions is a part of their training, especially when it comes to leadership, followership, and all these things around teamwork. So that's why I do caving, because this is something that can help me to learn about myself. If I have high enough empathy level, for example, and things like that. And every time when I come back from a caving expedition, I try to think about all things that happened, and if I could do something differently, if I was reacting to some situations in the way that I liked, or if I could do something better next time. And doing such things for 3 years or more really changed me.
Yeah, it's fascinating the way in which sort of, you know, when you first think about this, you just think of sort of hard practical skills are necessary. But the more you sort of talking about it, the more you realise that there's a lot more kind of, I don't know, as you said, it's kind of softer human qualities which sort of become a priority.
Yeah.
Piotr Zieliński, I'm afraid that's all we've got time for on today's show, but it's been an absolute pleasure, fascinating to hear you tell, and I wish you the best of luck on the Marso One project.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.